I've been wanting to film this for some time, and I think I'm ready now to literally share with you pages from my diary. Today, as you are watching this, it is Tuesday, June 24th, 2025, and it's essentially the 6-month anniversary from when I ruptured my appendix, as well as 1 centimeter of my bowel. The day that it ruptured, as I was sitting in the dining room table in my living room, I was gaslighting myself and still thought it was period pain. It's essentially like a finger-like pouch that's in your lower right abdomen, and it's at the beginning of your large intestine. It's so crazy how something so small can make such a big impact. But the good thing is it can only happen once in your life. So I think that's a win. So I have my cup of tea. I was scared that I was gonna burn my tongue. So I have my cup of tea as well as a delicious chocolate chip cookie. Yes, this is infused with chai masala. This is from a local Indian fusion restaurant you've got to try if you're ever in Toronto, specifically in Scarbrough. So I'll pop those details in the description box below. Let me take you back to 4 days before I admitted myself to the ER. Oh my god, this like rumbles in your mouth. All I remember feeling when I woke up that morning was like pain in my lower back. That's how it started. And also like I was like a week in before my period. So the symptoms all just felt like having PMS symptoms essentially. I was also irritable. I had body aches, and so I just, let it slide that day. Tuesday rolls around and the pain still persisted. On Tuesday, I ended up taking an Advil just to sort of bear the pain. Wednesday rolls around, I end up ordering a shawarma. Nothing against the shawarma that I ate, okay? By 3 a.m. I ended up vomiting. The pain I felt, okay? Like it felt like none other pain that I can think of. It just kept growing. So instead of it now being lower back, it's now, in my stomach. All I thought was, oh, maybe I just have food poisoning. And I was like, okay, let's not eat anything in the fear of throwing up again. But in that process, what I was actually doing was I wasn't having a bowel movement, and the pain only kept getting worse. I went another night taking Tylenol as opposed to Advil this time around. That helped me get a good night's sleep actually. So I was just under the impression again that it's probably food poisoning. So you know what? Let's wait until Saturday, Sunday to roll around to go into a hospital and get myself checked up. Maybe I should have done this Thursday itself, but Friday morning, breakfast, I eat a banana. When I say eat a banana, I took a bite of my banana. I put it down on my coffee table. Immediately, like as I'm swallowing, I feel so uncomfortable to sit in my couch. And so I'm like pacing back and forth. I'm anxious, I'm sweating, and I'm also finding it very uncomfortable to sit on the floor. But what did help is just kind of pacing a bit. So I was pacing from my living room corridor that I have, the entrance corridor, all the way to my living room to this bedroom. So I was essentially just slowly walking within these 3 areas of my apartment. Immediately there's a portion of me that's like, maybe this isn't period pain and maybe I need to get myself to a hospital. At that moment, I go to my emergency contacts, which is my immediate family. I end up calling my sister, who's a physician. It goes to voicemail. I call my mom, goes to voicemail. I call my partner, goes to voicemail. I call my dad, it goes to voicemail. You know, with all those videos you see of like, oh, like I love living alone, this is kind of one of the biggest cons of living alone, which is that there is no one to really confide in and to like bump heads in a little bit as to, should I take myself to the hospital? Should I not? Am I, you know, making stuff up in my head? Or is this real pain? At some point, I walk towards the living room window that faces the highway, and I see like all these cars go by. It's also winter, so there's lots of like piles of snow and slush mixed with like dirt. If you're a fellow Torontoan, you know what I'm talking about. And all I hear, like I can hear internally, like as if someone just like shot me, and I just fall to the floor. I fall to the floor and I'm just like wailing in pain, and then I just keep screaming. Like I'm now screaming in an empty apartment. I'm just like, this is not period pain, this is not period pain. And I think a portion of me just wanted to validate that the pain I was feeling is actual death pain. At some moment I end up hoisting myself up. My window has a little bit of a ledge, so I use that and I'm like staring out the window. I still remember the sky. It's like blue cumulus cloud winter sky. It was around like 11:30 a.m. by this time. There's like rush of cars going by. All I just kept thinking is, if this is the day that I'm gonna die, then this is it. I can't do anything about it. Describing this for me is bringing me back to that exact moment. And this is when I go into full fight mode. As soon as I'm going back to my phone, about to call 911, I end up getting a phone call from my sister. So how serendipitous of that moment. And I think out of all the 4 emergency contacts, I think that was the best to have happened. So she picks up and then she's like, what's wrong, what's wrong? And so I tell her, I need to get to a hospital. This pain that I'm feeling is not period pain. That's all I said. She immediately went online looking at the hospital near me. I actually didn't know that there was a difference between an urgent care and ER. So if you're also in the same boat, urgent care, they don't have the facilities to do like blood work, but they'll be able to take your vitals and things like that. But any tests like lab works or blood work, that can only be done in an ER. So when I got that information, I immediately was like, this is a big city. I do not want to be running around, especially when I'm not in the physical condition to be running around. That moment, I was holding on to my right side. And any sort of movement, like abrupt movement, it was excruciatingly painful. Just to let you know, the last time I took a Tylenol was like the night before, which meant that by this time, it was around 12 o'clock when I'm still yapping away with my sister. It has worn off. So I am on 0 meds at this point. I immediately say to her, no, I need to find a hospital that also has ER as well as urgent care. So that way I'm not running around. And that car ride, oh my God. I will never forget that car ride. Hold yourself for this. So I'm in my PJs. I put my coat on, have my phone, my keys, wallet, wear some shoes. As I'm waiting for the Uber, like my heart's racing. I'm anxious to get myself to the hospital, but I'm also worried about the outcome. You know, where it shows you the real time of where the driver is. Those 2 minutes felt like forever. And all I was thinking of as I was waiting for the Uber, I closed my eyes and I was like rocking myself a bit. I'm praying and I open my eyes and the Uber driver's right in front of me. Put my seatbelt on, and as he starts, we hit, you know, like a speed bump. I literally felt as if my insides were just like being shaken. It may sound funny, but in that moment, oh my God, the worst pain I could ever feel. And I was like, what did I get myself into? The entire 30-minute car ride to the hospital, I was holding myself and I was just praying, and I was like, I just need to stay alive. I need to stay alive for my family. I need to stay alive for myself. I couldn't help but to lean into spirituality at that point. It gave me so much hope, especially in such a time when I had no idea what was wrong with me. This is the part of the story where I truly believe a miracle happened. Mind you, this was like a Friday. I admitted myself first into urgent care. The thing about that urgent care was that it wasn't going to open until 2 p.m. So I had to wait from when I was dropped off. As I was waiting, I wasn't able to stand up straight at this point, as I was like holding myself on, I think, a banister that they had. One of the nurses, she came outside to give everyone the registration, and she immediately looked at me and she's like, you look like you're in pain. She's like, do you want to sit down? At this point, I was, kind of doctored by my sister that I may have had appendicitis, or a really bad case of appendicitis. I didn't know that it was to the extent of a ruptured appendix, okay? I tell her this, that I'm like, yeah, I think I may have like really bad appendicitis. I would like to get some tests done initially with you guys. So she then went over the difference between an urgent care, emergency. Their doors were supposed to open at 2. She let me in at 1:45. She let me in 15 minutes early. She registered for me, got my health card and everything. Within 2 minutes, I saw the urgent care doctor. Immediately, she took my vitals as well as my blood pressure, and she was like, yeah, I think you may have appendicitis, but you need to get some blood works done in the ER and some more lab reports to make a final decision. Usually the biggest wait time in hospitals, especially in urgent care, is the time between registering yourself in the ER and then triaging and then actually going to see the ER doctor. Usually that time in Toronto, and even on that Friday, I saw wait times from 2 hours to 7 hours, going on to 9 and double digits. I don't know what happened. Okay, but that day, these are the timestamps. By 1:30, I arrived at urgent care. 1:45, I got admitted into urgent care, registered. She said, go to ER. I walked myself to the ER. By 2:15, I was already registered. My blood work was already taken by the ER nurse. And then on top of this, I was already triaged to sit in the minor treatments area within the ER. By 2:30, I had already seen the ER doctor. I already had an IV drip in my arm, and let me tell you, by 3 p.m. I was on some good morphine. So by the time my sister had arrived, it was around, I would say, 8 p.m. She herself was so surprised. She was like, I thought you'd be in triage still, but I was already done all that. So all I was waiting for was to get the results of the CT scan. Especially in Canada, we have a beautiful public health system. I can attest to this today. My urgent care experience all the way until I saw my doctor was absolutely phenomenal. My experience throughout the process was like I just had a guided angel all through it. By the way, there was an urgent care nurse that was absolute angel, because I had forgotten the slip the urgent care doctor gave me to give to the ER doctor. So as I was registering in the ER, she had run all the way, which is like another wing of the hospital itself. She ran all the way just to give it to me so that I don't have to walk all the way back. And she's like, you forgot your slip, you forgot your slip. In these sort of moments, I truly felt like angels were working for me. So by 8:30 p.m., I had met with Dr. Michael Chan and his wonderful team of nurses. I have so much gratitude for him. If you are ever in the midst of Scarbrough Rouge Hospital, you are in such good hands with Dr. Michael Chan, giving me the reassurance that I needed every step of the way in this entire surgical journey, if you want to say that. He let me bombard him with a bunch of questions. Like, I come from a corporate legal background, okay? Except for like my 12th grade biology AP class, like I don't know anything much. I was more so asking questions about like post-surgery. I knew I wanted this out. Whatever this is, I want it out. And he is so patient with me. He's so patient and so understanding why it happened, what I could have done to prevent it. And he was like, you can't really prevent these sort of things. The last thing he did end up saying was that it was a good thing I admitted myself to the ER when I did, because if I didn't or waited a little bit longer, I could have died. He said that there was this like immense gratitude. And that moment, it was like 8:30, 9 p.m. I was surrounded by love from so many different people, and I just surrendered in that moment. Like, even when I was getting my CT scan done, the way in which the IV was in me was kind of flopping around a bit, so she retaped it so that it wasn't bothering me or in the way. And she's like, yeah, I just want to make sure you're comfortable. Even before my surgery, right before, one of the ER nurses was South Asian herself, and she like put a hand on me and she was like, don't worry, beta, everything's gonna be fine. She like said that in Hindi, and it sort of gave me like a comfort that, you know, everything's gonna be fine. Really nice to see that, especially in a healthcare environment, people genuinely care about you, and just the bottom line of you getting better was such a priority. So 10 p.m. I had my surgery. So what they ended up doing is removing my appendix laparoscopically, as well as stitching the 1 centimeter of my bowel that I tore apart as my appendix ruptured. So I was in the hospital post-surgery for 3 nights and 4 days. When the nurses would check my vitals as well as take my blood work, I was being asked the question, you know, how's your pain? I'd look at the chart on, you know, the left side of me, and it would have like angry face all the way to a happy face. And I just give her a blank stare back, and I'd be like, okay, it's fine. You know what I mean? Part of me still didn't know how to differentiate between pain and am I just making it up pain. And I think this brings a much deeper and bigger question when it comes to women tolerating pain. You know, we're taught at such a young age, especially when we get our periods and things like that, to just tolerate the pain, to bear the pain. It'll be fine. I was able to take care of it, so you should. How many times have you heard that from mom, siblings, grandma? But in this process, we forget that the bottom line is when your body is in pain and it's giving you signals saying that something isn't right, even period pain, the bottom line is to get yourself checked up. And the bigger conversation we need with women in our lives is not normalizing period pain, because even when my pain was at 1,000 angry faces, I still kept thinking that it was just period pain, when the reality is my body, your body, is so much more smarter and wiser than both of us. You know, when the pandemic started, and because it affected all of us, you know, the way in which we communicate in terms of timeline was always pre-pandemic and after the pandemic and during the pandemic. Very similarly, my frame of reference in terms of timeline is very much like Vidya, who I was before surgery and before January 24th, and the Vidya that I am now after January 24th. This goes out to anyone with an invisible disability. As I mentioned earlier, I was in the hospital for 4 days. In that time, I was essentially situated in a room with 3 other patients that were also recovering. My bedmate, she was in a car crash and was immediately quadriplegic. In that moment, I was immediately humbled and extremely grateful and not taken for granted being in an abled body without pain. For a couple of days, I experienced what it's like to live in a body with pain. It takes so much determination and so much out of you to get up from bed, want to do the things that you daily do. The one story that I'll say is when I was discharged from the hospital, I was not able to walk at the pace that I'm able to walk today. My body was still in recovery. I needed to go get the meds prescribed to me by my doctor, but the walk from the entrance of the shopping mall to the Shoppers, 2-minute walk essentially took me 20 minutes to do. It was in moments like that where I was so immensely realizing how much I've taken for granted my abled body. The first day that I spent in the hospital, I was essentially a one-person assist, which essentially means that I needed help to get out of bed, to stand up, walk to the bathroom, sit on the toilet. I also needed help to hoist myself back up, go back to bed. All those little movements. I didn't realize how much your abdomen plays such a big role in it. Even as small as this chair that I'm sitting on doesn't have any arms. It's essentially your abdomen that's doing the work to lift myself up without, using my arm. The part that I still struggled with was just getting my upper body to just sit up on the bed. It took me at least 10 days after I was discharged from the hospital to be able to do that by myself. The best thing I did for myself after I was discharged from the hospital was spending time with my niece and nephew, because that's exactly the cure I needed. Those little rugrats, spending time with them. We made some pizza. Just to give you some perspective, my parents were in India at that time when they got the phone call that, hey, I'm in the hospital and about to go to surgery. So they were freaking out like every, Indian parents would. It was so immensely grateful, especially when, my mom was doing a little haul of everything she had bought for my niece, nephew, and all of us. I was just so grateful. I was just so grateful to experience that moment and just have the time to recover with family.
Good boy.
So after I was discharged from the hospital, I still had to have my little friend called JP Drain with me. If you don't know what a JP Drain is, Google it, but it's essentially the most coolest, like if you love to nerd out about these things, this is when you should. So it's essentially a rubber sac that collects fluid, and it essentially just to determine if the fluid is normal or abnormal. And what I would have to do is call Dr. Chan, just giving him a progress report as to what the color looks like, if it's cloudy, if it's, opaque, translucent. I would have to give him essentially like a progress report on the daily until Dr. Chan would call me back and say, okay, come back to the hospital to get this JP drain removed. So I'll insert the video here of me getting finally the call back from Dr. Chan to drive back to Scarbrough Rouge Hospital to get the JP drain removed.
So the day has finally come where my little friend JP Drain finally gets taken out. I have been waiting for this day for so long, hoping it all goes well, fingers crossed, praying on all the gods of all religions today, and we'll report back right afterwards. It's out, and I'm finally free.
So my mom actually came with me to Dr. Chan's office to get it removed, and I kid you not, that day, I will never forget it. Like, you need skill to remove a JP drain. You need years and years of experience, just like Dr. Chan, to remove it. Not anyone could remove a JP drain. It felt like someone was like pulling my insides out. Like, I just saw another life of me get out. You know, you're supposed to do it in a very certain knack, from what I understood. This is, you know, a trained professional doing this. He just did it in one sweep. Like, he just took the entire thing out. And all I saw is like my mom's face, just like, you know, I was thinking it's just this tiny little thing. But I think this is the genius of medicine. Like, how awesome is it and how cool is it that this long tubular thing was in me and I couldn't feel anything. Like, I couldn't feel like one side was just a tad bit heavier than the other side, you know what I mean? Like, it was so cute because my dad was waiting for me in the cafeteria lobby. So as soon as my mom and I came towards him, letting him know, look, it's all done, it's all taken out, he was so cute. He went to Tim Hortons and he ordered me a coffee as well as a Boston cream donut. But I will say, the best thing I did for myself in this entire appendix-less journey, I did not Google things before the surgery, after the surgery, even when I was discharged and just hanging out with my JP drain friend. I didn't Google anything until after my JP drain was removed, just so that like I don't psych myself out, especially when he was like removing the JP drain. I am so thankful that I never Googled anything, because you can easily like get in your head with those kind of things. And also, like, there's so much misinformation online. So when my parents had come with me to get my JP drain removed, that day is also the day that they would drop me off at my apartment, the place where everything all began. Just to give you some context, by this point, I had not been to my apartment for over a month. So when I stepped foot into my bedroom, I just broke down crying.
We're home. I'm so lucky to be home, that's all. This has been pretty interesting start to 2025. Never thought this would be it, but I'm home at last. It's all over. It's all over.
While this lived experience is somewhat like a collection of like traumatic moments, it was also the biggest life-changing experience. as well as allowing me to get to a stage in my life where I am so immensely appreciative of the body I have today. There used to be a time where I was so rude to the body I have. Call out how fat my face is, how of a double chin I have, calves that are bigger than it was before. But the reality is this body is what helped me to recover in 4 days after my surgery. This body is what helped me to, in 10 days of after being discharged from the hospital, I was walking up and down the staircase of my sister's home. This body is also what helped me to step foot into a gym on April 1st, 2025. This is after going 5 years of not even putting my health as a priority, especially my physical health, and figuring out what type of movement really helps me. Strength training is the one thing that has helped me to quieten the monkey mind I constantly have and just focus on one task at a time. So what does this mean for week 3 of the meal prep series and what I eat in a week? Well, there will be some changes, especially in reference to videos that I already have up on my channel. It will look vastly different, only because I am more than determined now than ever to lose the weight essentially, and I am calorie counting the recipes that I make as well as upload onto the CTD recipe index. But with that being said, I'm not gonna put macros on my recipes unless you want the macros. I think in the society that we live in, there's already so much being bombarded onto you and I when it comes to losing weight, and I don't want to add to that. So to make it a safe and inclusive space, if you want the macros to any of the recipes going forward, send me a DM on my Instagram or feel free to always email me. I'll pop my email right here and I will reply back within a minute that you send it. So yeah, the recipes on the CTD website will continue to always be a space, welcoming environment for you, focusing on incorporating more whole foods and at the same time finding a delicious balance between soothing your soul and soothing your taste buds. These are my diaries. I've literally written in a diary ever since I was 12 years old, and it was the only way that I could express myself in whatever manner that I want to. And I'm ready now to share with you literally pages from my diary. Thank you so much for tuning in to the pilot episode. And if this resonated with you, hit that subscribe button. And remember to always keep smiling, beautiful soul.